Hey yo, it's the LifeShot podcast. Change your world and change the world.
Joyce, welcome to LifeShot.
Thanks, Clint.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Very good. We got Joyce Crawford, who runs the Joyce Weekly Walks as a social walking club. You've done the London Marathon. You've done the Centurion 1911, which is an interesting one. It's a walk for amateur athletes who have walked 100 miles within 24 hours in a judged race. So quite an achievement. Joyce, it's good to have you on the show. And today we want to talk about walking, how people get something out of it, what they get out of it, how important is it to our lives to be outdoors and to be active and to move. So we'll talk about that today. So I was just reading up about walking and how it can put you into an elevated state of like a different mindset or in an altered state of consciousness. And I mentioned a person called Sri Chinmoy who started a marathon in 1977, and the races are still going on today, and people experience hallucinations. So I wanted to ask, have you ever experienced something like that or something similar in your walks?
Sleep deprivation does do some mind-altering things. It really does. I don't think I've ever had hallucinations. You do become locked into a zone that's not quite the real world. That's for sure. And your mind plays tricks on you as well. You want to give up way before your body will actually give up. So you need to be the master of your mind, I believe, in those situations. And I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at talking myself out of some negativity when I'm, doing a race or a competition. But hallucinations, no. Delirious, you could become delirious if you don't watch the amount of hydration you're taking on. That's a side effect of that very, very quickly. And you can't run out of energy either. Otherwise, that does some mind-altering things to you as well.
So you spoke about there, you said you tell your mind to get rid of negative thoughts. It's an interesting thing you said, because it's almost like you telling yourself something. There's almost two things going on there. One thing's telling the other. How do you see that?
I think what you think and say to yourself affects how you feel about something. So you need to be in charge of what you're thinking, because then you generate the feeling. Does that make sense? So if your body's feeling worn out and tired, if I continually allude to I'm tired, I've had enough, then that's exactly how I continue to feel. If I get on top of that and tell myself that I can do it, I can beat it, it's all in the mind, then that really does alter things, and it puts a different perspective on it, and you find that you can just re-energize yourself that way. That's for sure. You can do impossible things. I would never have done that 24-hour, that 100-mile race if I didn't train my mind to do that. Endurance is it. I don't think everyone can do it, especially in a race or a situation where it's very repetitive, very boring, and you're doing the same thing over and over again. That's a real struggle with the mind, and you have to master that.
Was that race around a track?
Yeah, well, it wasn't around a track. It was on a 2-mile loop, and it was on a 2-mile loop because it had to be measured and it had to have judged officials at various points. So there were always 4 officials out on the route to check that you weren't running it and that you were race walking it. So that's 50 times around there. So immediately you start to think, do I count up to 50 laps? Do I count down to 0? That's what goes through your head.
How did you feel it? Like, was it 2-3 in the morning? Was it 24 hours? So
yeah, it started at midday. Wow. On a Saturday, went through to midday on a Sunday, and I finished with just about 17 minutes to go. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing the sunset. I enjoyed seeing the moon rise, and I enjoyed seeing the sunrise, which was all. So
it was a clear night.
It was a beautiful night. It was a cold night, but I love the dawn, and the dawn comes before a sunrise, and it can come very, very, very early. It can be 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and the sky changes colour, and that just motivates you. So there weren't many dark hours really.
Was it during the summertime or springtime?
Yeah, it was August, mid-August. And I had a great team of supporters that came, and there wasn't any time when I didn't see someone out on the course. They were held at a camp because I could only be fed in a certain area of the 2-mile loop.
You could stop.
I could stop,
yeah.
And some people can build in enough time to have a proper rest, but I didn't have that ability to go that fast to build in any extra time for myself. So within those 24 hours, you have to do all your kind of housekeeping things and all your food, and you're allowed to be handed food, but you're not allowed to have anyone walk beside you because that's considered pacing.
Because that's interesting when you said that there was always someone there egging you on, kind of encouraging you.
Always through.
I'm interested in that. How does that invigorate a person to have a sense of others around?
Well, on a 2-mile loop, you're always 25 minutes away. You're always 25 minutes before you see the next person. And because those people changed all the time, that motivated me to say who was going to be round on the next loop. And I couldn't stop and say hi to them, but I could wave them on, and they were intrigued by the whole idea of people doing that for 24 hours. And so people would come for an hour, they'd see me twice, they'd seen a whole load of other people as well. But to me, that's quite something, isn't it?
Have you done what you live in Maldenhall, which is, we could say, the countryside to an extent.
Yes.
And we've got the Mildenhall Forest,
Yes.
Thetford Forest.
Yes.
Have you? So you've obviously been on walks in the Brandon Forest and such,
Yes.
but have you been on walks in what's the place that you've walked where you've been most inspired, should we say?
I did an interview last week for a local magazine in Suffolk about the Suffolk Walking Festival, which I contribute to quite a bit. And the guy that heads that up works for Suffolk County Council, and he works for a Green Access Department. So we're really we want to get people out into the countryside. And one of his questions was, where do I like to walk? And I love Santon Downham, which is about 10 miles away, because it has the pine forest there. It has the River Ouse, which I love walking by water. I think a lot of people do. I think they find that really peaceful and tranquil. And it has a railway line, and I love a train going through a walk. So I love a towpath that runs alongside a canal. And I find that there's lots of wildlife by a river, more perhaps than in a forest, really. So,
Do you walk those by yourself?
No, I don't. No, I'm not very brave when it comes to that. I'm very, I do very little walking by myself outside of, a town or a city. So I could go to Cambridge and walk for miles and miles and miles because I feel safe there. But I don't take myself into the forest at all by myself, no.
Would you suggest that others do walks by themselves, or is it just a personal thing, and if you feel safe or not?
I think you've got that in one. A lot of people take a dog with them and walk with a dog, and that brings a sense of security. These days we all carry phones with us. But I do like to go for a walk without a phone. I just don't want the distraction. I do want to just disconnect. So for me, I would cycle solo, but you just have to weigh those risks up for yourself, don't you?
How difficult is it to get people to go on a walk with you? Is it not difficult or difficult?
Do you know, it's not difficult. It isn't difficult at all. I think because I can tempt people with a walk that is the right distance for them, with a coffee stop, with somewhere that they wish to explore or they hadn't thought of. I find people are really good. Not difficult.
Do you have a mixture of people coming, or is it regulars that come on your club your club walks?
Just last week I did a walk that I I graded as a 10 out of 10 walk. It was perfection, I thought. And I had 19 people come along of varying abilities. But I emailed out to the group or used some social media, and I tell them exactly what's expected. So they always want to know the length of the walk. They always want to know if there's a coffee stop or where we stop for lunch, and the gradient, etc., etc. So I think I give them plenty of information before they come on a walk, so they know whether they can do it. And some people choose to challenge themselves. So I had a lady who had never walked 9 miles before, and she wanted to walk 9 miles, and she got round, and she has written to me already and said, I'm so pleased with myself that I was able to do something I'd never done before. And this Friday I happen to be doing a 10-mile walk, so will she come, will she won't, will she not, I don't know.
I'm thinking of the mental benefits of doing walks out in nature. So have you ever in your walking club, are there people who maybe they don't say it to you, but they're dealing with some mental things and this helps them? Do you think that walking out in nature does help with mental problems or situations?
It definitely does. It's a difficult thing to quantify and measure, isn't it? Because it's different for everybody. But I always smile and say there's no mirrors in the country. You're never checking your reflection. So if you're going to town and you've got shop fronts and glass and mirrors, there's always that tendency to just check that your hair looks okay, or But in the countryside, there's no mirrors, and so there's no distractions like that. I find most people walk with their phones on silent. You very rarely hear a phone go off at all. And I know that some people have lost as well, and they're grieving, and they're at different points in their lives, and it helps being with people that not necessarily will become your best friend, but they're the right person on that day. And often the walk is the right walk for that day as well for them.
I read a book by a Franciscan monk, Richard Raw, and he talks about going on walks with these the people that I suppose in his church or wherever it is, but they walk behind each other and in silence. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No, that personally is not my favourite walking. The processional walking. I love a really wide field edge where you can walk 3 or 4 abreast. That's my kind of walking, where everyone's interacting and chipping in and joking and smiling and pointing things out. So I haven't.
You prefer the social side of walking?
I do. I prefer pointing things out to people that they wouldn't be tuned in. So I can hear a buzzard, the noise of a buzzard, and immediately my head's upwards and finding that buzzard and pointing it out. And last week it was pointing out a red kite. Well, they're becoming more familiar, but people were quite interested in seeing a red kite. And a little bit of bird song. Again, I'm not very good at that. I admire people that know birds just from their song. But it's good to keep your eyes open for things like that. So, hares at the moment, prevalent.
What, this time of the year?
Very much so. Yeah, I'm always looking for hare.
Springtime.
Yes, yeah, and deer.
Beautiful, must be a beautiful time to walk.
Oh, if I could walk solidly for the next 3 weeks every day, I would not be happier. I lap up the spring, the greenery. It's a different green at the moment, isn't it? The fields are really verdant. We have fields around here of oilseed rape that are just turning yellow, and
so all the colours.
Yeah, the patchwork is just lovely, really nice.
We talk about your diet. As I've been listening to a lot of different things about nutrition and sports and performance.
Yes.
So you've been on the Centurion 1911. Yeah. So a 24-hour race, walking 100 miles. Now, you don't eat meat per se. You eat fish sometimes. Does that diet kind of hamper your endurance, or do you think that eating a vegetarian mostly diet is okay for your performance?
That's an interesting question. I was iron deficient for many years, and I worried that because I wasn't eating meat that was the cause of it. But I was categorically told that was not the cause of it. I just couldn't absorb some nutrients and some vitamins, so I had to.
Because of your body or because of the food?
No, just because of my body. So I had to take some vitamins for that. But I haven't been iron deficient for a while now, so that meant no, I haven't, and that's something that you need to get checked out. Really, if you're doing a lot of sport, you do need to make sure that your B12 and your ferritin levels are at a good level. I'm not scared of food groups. I'm not someone that cuts carbs out at all. My body actually works really well with carbs, and sometimes very heavy carbs, really. Bread works really well for me. I can digest it well. I can digest it well when I'm walking. I had to try out lots of different variations, but I felt my stomach's always is quite hardy. So for me on the Centurion, I had to make sure that I got enough salt in, because I need quite a lot of salt, and I needed the sweet stuff and the savoury. And so over 24 hours, you have to have all of those elements in your food, because otherwise it's very bland, very boring, and you quickly shut down and don't want to eat. But you need to eat because you need to get to the end. So
Was the salt for your cramping? Did you cramp your muscles?
Salt for the cramping. Yeah, so I would make bread rolls with cheese in them, but then I'd put jam in as well. So I'd got the carb, the fat.
I like a bit of cheese and jam.
And the sweet. And you probably heard lots of people say that normally they wouldn't think of drinking Coca-Cola, but when you're racing that long, Coca-Cola is just amazing. It has to be flat, can't have the bubbles in it, but it gets you round. It really does. The caffeine, the sugar, it just tastes like liquid gold. It really does.
So your choice on not eating red meat and other meats except for fish, is that a bio-conscious decision, or is it more just I just don't like the taste?
It was a decision I made when I was about 19, and I started comparing how America prepared their chickens, fed their chickens, grew their chickens, and how we did it here. And I remember going to America and someone saying to me, if you just pull back a chicken skin, you'll smell fish food, because that's one of the elements of feeding them. And I did. I tried their chicken, our chicken, their beef, our beef. And many years ago, there wasn't this organic movement with meat or free range. And certainly at 19, I wasn't going to afford that. So I cut those food groups out. And the only vegetarian food you got out and about was, an omelette or a jack of potato. And now it's grown into really quite some movement, hasn't it?
So when you first started, it was difficult to find food to eat out there. Now
it really was.
The changing.
So you just cook at home and adapt, don't you? But these days, vegetarianism, veganism is quite a movement, really, and a movement for morals, for ethics, for
the environment,
all sorts. But mine it was my choice. I didn't mind other people eating meat. I prepare meat for other people, but I didn't like the way they pumped the animals full of hormones and antibiotics. So
that was the main decision.
Yeah, it was. I think yes, and
Are you proponents of that kind of diet for more widely? So should people adopt it more widely nowadays? Not necessarily exactly yours, but less meat.
That's interesting. I don't give it an awful lot of thought. I think less red meat, definitely. I think.
And is that for people who eat red meat every day? They should eat less red meat. Because if you eat it once a week.
I don't have a problem with people eating burgers or steak, things like that. I think we have to be careful about how much bacon and how many nitrates we're putting into our body. Definitely.
Nitrates,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's about. So it sounds like you want to eat. You don't want the hormones. You want to eat natural food, whole foods, foods that are good for your body, foods that don't hurt the body. So I think if people are making those choices, then they're making better choices.
Yes, there's nothing better than seeds and nuts and fruits, and they're great.
So much invigorate the body.
Yeah, they do. They really do. They feed the mind, don't they?
Yeah. So what type of people do go on walks with you? Do you get young people coming? And do you get young parents, or is it more the older generation?
No, people. So I'm 51. It would be people that have taken early retirement, maybe in their 50s and older. I would say we are in perhaps the 10-year span between 50 and 60, most of us.
Although there are times I know when you've got some young people with you. As I've walked with you.
Yeah, sure.
Which one was it?
New Year's Day walk.
New Year's Day, yeah.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we've done a New Year's Day walk for, I would think, the last 10 years easily.
Very popular.
It is popular. It's just a day of getting together, and people, you can't say hello to everyone. There's too many people. Last year we had over 80 people on the walk. And 80 people, and we had a simple 3-mile walk down to the local pub. The local pub did some sandwiches for us. There were lots of dogs on the walk, lots of strollers, it was a walk for everyone. And for people that didn't want to do more than 3 miles, then there was the option of driving back from the pub, and they've got a 3-mile walk in with some friends. So,
and 3 miles is not a big ask. So it's 3 miles there, 3 miles back.
Yes, it was. Yeah, 6 miles. But when you walk with people, the time goes quickly. You're not adding up until your body starts aching or your feet feel slapped on the bottoms. Then you can walk for quite a while, can't you, without thinking about it.
Do you have big walks like that during the year as well that people attend, like maybe Easter or?
We have done Easter walks. I haven't got anything planned for this Easter. I've got a walk happening in May, on a bank holiday in May, which is along a river, and there's also a railway line running along the riverside as well, so people can opt out at 5 miles or 8 miles or 3 miles, and we have a breakfast butty stop, and then there's a pub at the end. So. And it's a nice walk.
Sounds like you're too easy on your walkers.
I'm too easy?
Yeah. You could stop at 3.
That's
so, come on, guys. All the way to 8 miles.
I know. Not many do. They do feel bad about opting out. But no, I know what people... If you've got a young family and they all want to bring their little scooters, you don't want to carry them for 8 miles. But 3 miles is good. And they get to ride on the train back. It's good.
Right. I might come to that one.
You might do. You know the area well.
Do I?
Bishop Stortford.
Oh, okay.
That's where we start.
It's a lovely area.
Yeah, River Stort is lovely. Flows right down into the River Lee, which goes to the Thames in London.
I shall see you there.
That's good.
Yes. So, what advice do you give people on where to focus their attention when they're walking? Or is it whatever, is it more social, or do you think they should focus on something particular?
Wow, that's interesting. You can put the most interesting walk on, but if someone has found someone to talk to, they will literally walk with their heads down chatting. I find it amuses me all the time, because people just want different things out of walking, don't they? People just want the exercise, or the social side's really big, and so often people just walk with their heads down. And I try to elevate them. Very often I'll stop the group and we'll do a panoramic, because it's just beautiful. I've brought them up, we've ascended so that we can get a really good view over a valley.
And then people's attention breaks at that point on whatever they were doing.
Yeah, they affirm that it's a lovely view.
Oh yes, lovely. Look at that.
Yeah, and aren't we lucky, and etc. Yeah. And then they resume their conversations. But that gives me joy as well.
Just seeing people enjoying that time gives you joy as well.
Of course, yeah, it does. It's like they've found kindred spirits. And I was walking with a lady the other day, and she'd lost her husband about 3.5 years previous, and she wasn't having a good day. And do you know, I was really happy to be a listening ear, and just, you know, affirm that of course there's no length of time that she has to finish her grieving at all, and the activities she was doing and the route we were doing just brought memories back of how that would have been something they'd have loved to do together. So you have to just adapt to those situations and just feel a privilege that you were able to walk with them that day.
So it was an impromptu counselling session, which is...
Well, it was just a really, really nice time with her, really was. And at the end of the walk, she came on the next walk with me 3 days later. She came on my walk, and she's also coming on a holiday we're doing in Spain in October. So we're going walking in Spain in October.
That must be quite different, as in the heat. And...
Yes, yeah, it's my 4th time of going. I don't organise the walks. They're 4 days walking, organised by a Dutch group, which is strange because the Dutch walk on the flat, but Marbella is not flat. It's very undulating, very hilly, and it is warm there.
Semi-arid type, or is it quite green?
No, it's lush enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's dominated by a beautiful mountain, and we go into that. Obviously, by October, it's looking a little bit more
drier. Yeah.
But it's fun, and you can choose a distance of 30 kilometres, which is 18 miles every day for 4 days. That's a challenge. Or you can drop to 20 kilometres. And there's 2,200 people descend on Spain for this walking festival. It's really vibrant. It's really good.
I can imagine that vibe.
Very good. And it's warm. Most temperatures are around 25, which brings a different challenge of its own as well.
Yeah.
But you have all day to do it. And the Dutch are very sociable. They bring their own bands with them.
Really, music is playing while you're walking?
No, at the end and before.
End.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm quite evangelical about it. So for the last 2 years, I've taken about a dozen people with me. And this year looks similar or even more.
I'd like to go, but having a young family could be tricky, couldn't it? Kids walk on that?
They don't. On the weekends, they have a little 10k for them, I think. So they do a little 6 miler. I never see that happen because we've started walking earlier in the day just to try and get some cooler temperatures.
Yeah. Wow. So you start early, get it cool, and then by midday you're like...
We start about 8:30 and we try and finish around 2:30. So we've probably got about 6 hours of walking a day. But, you know, we go past tavernas, so you can stop for a coffee at any time, ice creams. But so I quite like getting back so I can swim and read and just, you know, get ready for the next day.
So in your walking club, has there been anybody that you've seen a drastic increase in their health from walking? Or have you not had that privilege of being with someone that long?
Oh, I can say I definitely have. I started, I was involved in the Suffolk Walking Festival last year, 2018, and I led 7 walks for them. And from a couple of those walks, I've been walking with the same people for a year nearly. And some of them are really challenging themselves on steps per day or miles per year. Hugely. So yes, people have really got itchy feet over the last year of walking with me, which is great. I've had some other people join me that have just taken early retirement and their mileage is increasing. They're walking with other groups such as the Ramblers, and there's a long distance walking association local to here. They're walking with them. So sometimes they could be walking twice, 3 times a week. And certainly I'm walking, I think, 5 times this week. Yeah, 5 times this week I'm walking with people.
How long do you think you'll be walking for into your old age? Do you plan on stopping?
No, I think walking, as people say to me, do your hips not hurt, your knees? because the sideline is race walking for me as well, which is a technical sport. But no, my hips don't hurt me and my knees don't hurt me, and all the time I think I'm exercising my heart, I'm keeping diabetes away, I'm keeping the risk of stroke low, I'm just doing something that hopefully keeps all of that in check. And at the same, there's lots of benefits to that. So I don't think I will give up until I can't.
I bet you don't feel 50.
Oh, what does that feel like, Clint?
I don't know.
You don't know yet, do you?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But do you feel young?
I think I feel younger now than I did years ago when I didn't do that much exercise. All my exercise was a bit more hard on my body, badminton, squash. That was a little bit more harder.
So how long have you been walking? Because I've known you for many years and just known you to be walking.
I've been walking long or mid-distance, I would say, for close to 20 years easily. And then in my younger age, in my teens, I did lots of aerobic sports. And then there was a period where I was iron deficient where I really didn't do very much at all until I got on top of that.
So it's interesting, because I think that aerobic sport or cardiovascular sport that makes you breathe really heavy. Mm-hmm. I mean, running, I run once a week. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason I limit it to once a week is because I don't want to put too much strain on my body. So I'd rather do strength training and mobility. Mm-hmm. So I'll do keeping my muscles strong and then flexible and mobile at the same time. I think that's important. But walking sounds like it's a good exercise because it doesn't put too much strain on your joints, whereas like a heavy cardiovascular, like you mentioned, squash and running and badminton, do you think it puts a bit more strain on the body?
I think it tears the muscles quicker, and the recovery can be a bit longer. So apart from walking, I still go to the gym and do some 30-minute circuit classes, but I choose whether I want to do as you say, a conditioning class or strength class, or one that concentrates on keeping my heart rate up high, or I do a Pilates class because I feel like...
So variety is good there.
Oh, definitely. I think you have to keep tricking your body into... If you do something all the time, then it always knows what to expect. That muscle memory is there, isn't it? So my body knows how to put one foot in front of the other. But I need to keep tricking it into other exercises, because walking, although it's good for bone density, because after 50 we can't seem to repair that bone density, but we can certainly try and halt it. There's still other body conditioning that you need to do, definitely. The flexibility, the all-round strength and things like that. So I do that a lot.
Do you think it's good for the brain as well? I heard something about doing something with the hand that's not the dominant hand.
Oh. To
try and help the brain to, being reinvigorated as well.
Right. Okay. To trick it again, you mean?
Because you just mentioned that, and it just sprung to mind where you said trick the body into doing that. I'm thinking it's good for the body, but I think it's good for the mind too.
I think you're right, and you reminded me of something I read in the paper once that said, when you're on holiday, how come the days always seem longer? And it's because you're doing different things, and it's kind of this trickery that the days are longer because the brain is suddenly engaging in different activities.
Not the same thing it's usually.
Absolutely. And in the same day to day, when it's doing the same thing, the days just seem shorter. But on holiday, the routine's mixed up. You're doing different things, and that is reinvigorating. That's good, isn't it? That's why retirement sounds good, doesn't it? Doing different things every day.
Keeping yourself
and
busy
not always
things.
keeping in a routine. But there's certainly, when you're exercising, the oxygen circulating is mentally a really very good thing. Very good thing.
For your body and your mind.
Absolutely.
And brain. And all those.
Yeah.
I want to move on to something slightly different. Just more personal to you, although this is all personal to you, but we also try to encourage people to get out there and walk and be with nature. But I want to talk about other aspects about Joyce, which is you seem a very organised person. And I remember Esther, my wife, said to me one day that she said, how do you keep a house clean? You said, don't move anything more than once if you can avoid it.
Yes.
So, tell us about, the way you do those type of things.
Oh, I know Esther's remembering if you are washing up and wiping the dishes, you don't put the dish down and then pick it up again and move it into the cupboard. You put it straight in the cupboard. That's what she means by don't move it twice. So I look for shortcuts like that. They're called life hacks, aren't they?
Life hacks.
Yeah,
I like the word,
they give you a bit more time because you're just executing something faster, and then you can spend more time on other things. So,
do any more come to mind? You think so? Few bits of advice for life hacks.
Oh, yeah, I could have written you a list of life hacks. I got some life hacks about how. All sorts of things. Nothing comes to mind.
Nothing's springing to mind right now.
No, they don't come to mind at the moment. But am I organised? I think my personality is just wired that way. But then also, I have to try and be spontaneous at the same time. So my brain is always going to what we're doing Friday, what we're doing Saturday, what we're doing Sunday. And sometimes that doesn't leave enough time for being spontaneous. So there's a balance there. It's nice to be organised, but it's really nice to do something on the spur of the moment as well.
So that's kind of putting yourself back and saying, just be in this moment.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about what's happening in the future.
Yes, don't try and keep orchestrating things that you're in control of. Let someone else bring up Otherwise, if someone does say, would you like to come over for a barbecue, you've already got to say, we're already promised here. We've already got people coming around. Sometimes you just need to keep it a bit fluid.
A bit free.
Yeah.
So what are you passionate about at the moment and why?
Oh, what am I passionate about at the moment? Oh, interesting question.
Anything that's recently come up that you've been thinking about?
I'm always planning new walks. I've always got an Ordnance Survey map somewhere open or photocopied, ready to do a new route. I'm involved in a young adults group at our church, which I'm passionate about, seeing them connect with God and growing in their faith. Passionate about that. Passionate about family members, cooking, reading. Set myself a goal to read about 20 odd books this year.
20 books in a year?
Yeah, all the books that you've started and never finished. That's
Finish
it.
those ones.
I'm not buying another book until I've finished the 20 that are under that bookcase there. And I've got through 4 at the moment. And I'm reading the Bible in a year again, which takes some commitment.
Every day you've got to do something. You've got to read something every day.
Yeah, you do, yeah. And some text around it, some commentary around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to talk about the young people that you have, and they come to your house every Friday. You obviously speak about a range of different topics.
Yes.
What do you think they're struggling with the most at the moment?
Oh, that's interesting. So the young adults group that we facilitate they're aged between 19 and 24. It's a group that years ago, perhaps many of them would have been married and settled, but these days, they can't afford to leave home. Lots of them go to uni and they're just starting on a career path. So everything's kind of shifted a little bit.
So they're younger for longer.
Yes, I think they are. So we address our group. We address some life skills with them, really. Some of the time, we hit some hard subjects like self-harming, eating disorders, pornography, things that we don't expose them. We don't want to know their trials, but we want to put in some sort of ways to help them out with things like that and ways to get some help. But they struggle with the distraction of social media. and the fact that everything seems to be bite-sized and sound bites all the time, and we find it really difficult to stay on topic for 10 minutes, 20 minutes without changing or checking something or looking elsewhere. They struggle with self-image, they struggle with comparisons, they struggle with not looking perfect all the time, they struggle with low self-esteem, and we're there to just put them back online, really. I always say no one died of a big head, so just keep complimenting them, generally, authentically. Tell them what they're good at, give them hope.
Would they benefit from, just hearing what you're saying now about social media and always being connected to that virtual world, would they benefit from being disconnected from that for a while? I mean, just going out into nature, and they do like going on camps, don't they? If you give them the opportunity, I'm sure they would say, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They like leaders. They like, in our group, we don't have any particular one person that leads, whereas in previous groups I've seen people that lead, and they lead well. They seem to gather people to them. They seem to just take people along with their ideas, and at the moment we don't have quite anyone that does that. But if you put an idea out there, they will go along with it, but they won't generate that idea themselves. So just even if we're going out to eat somewhere, I find that all quite interesting. So I planned something for Good Friday for our group. We're going to a concert type service in Bury, and you just put the idea that we're going to eat out beforehand, and of course they're all up for that. So would they benefit being disconnected? That we have one person in the group who's definitely disconnected and doesn't feel like they're missing out at all.
So they don't have a big social media aspect to their life.
They don't have a platform at all. They
choose not to.
They've chose not to for a while, and I asked them, "Are you missing out?" And they say no. And I think how freeing it is, isn't it? I really admire them.
Yeah, because there's some beneficial aspects to social media, but then there's the very negative parts of it as well, where you become dependent on it.
There's some really beneficial aspects to it, of course, but these days, considering we're so connected, it does feel quite disconnected as well, doesn't it?
At the same time, which is really odd.
Yeah, let's pick a phone up. What? Let's write a letter. What?
Yeah. Those things are of the past. So, lastly, I just want to ask, the world we see at the moment, we've got Brexit going on, and seems to be a bit of division, and hate seems to be a little bit on the increase. You could see it like that, or you could see life in a more positive way. I think sometimes we see a bit of both. But how do you see the future playing out for us in the world? Is there hope for our young people and for humanity? And what should happen? What should change?
There's always hope. There's hope because I'm a Christian, and I have a faith in Jesus. So that's my hope. You're right about there seeming like there's a uprising in hate in our country. I think views are they're steered by our press and our news, and that disappoints me really. I wish there was more of an independent voice, but there seems to be, I'm not sure if there's more of a tolerance about some things or an intolerance, and I sway between the two things as whether we should teach tolerance or intolerance. I'm not really sure, but people are very vocal, aren't they? They really are. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. The answer to is there hope? Yes, I believe there is hope. I believe there is hope. I think things will look different, but then everything has to keep moving, doesn't it? It can't just stay still. It just can't. It will different. Travel will be different. It will. You can't stay still, can you? And if you ask me what what the world will look like in 10 years' time? I have no idea. I want it to be secure and safe for all my nieces that are growing up. I want them to have opportunity, definitely. I really do. I don't want there to be parts of the world that are unsafe to travel to. I don't want a world that focuses on creed and colour and ethnicity and religion, and tribes. I don't want that at all. I want us to be respectful of each other.
Yes, yeah,
definitely.
Just to round off, then I see you have some maps here, and I was going to ask about some advice for people who do want to go on walks. And I've actually thought about this myself. Like, I live in Islip, and it's quite there's just a lot of farms around. You think, well, where would I walk? Because I don't want to walk on the road because then there's cars coming past. Yep. So are there things where you could say, oh, people have walked here, and this is a route that you could walk? Are there maps like that?
Yeah, there's OS maps that have defined paths, and in the UK at the moment we have some categories of a footpath which can only be walked on, cannot be cycled on, and a bridleway which will let you cycle, and a horse can go down there, but a motorbike can't go down there. That comes into another category of a byway, and I'm an advocate that we need to realign the footpath and the bridleway together so that everybody on a bike, on a horse and on foot can enjoy those paths together. I think it's a very old-fashioned idea, and I can see why they did that, because if you ask people 30, 40 years ago, they would have never have seen that we weren't getting enough activity during the week, that we had to hop on a bicycle on a weekend and cycle into the country. But that's the reality, is that people enjoy cycling, and strictly they shouldn't cycle on a footpath. But I would like to see that law changed so that was accessible. But my rule is, I know my footpaths and my rights of way, but unless a farmer has got private no entry, then usually the farmer will let you walk around a field, and they will leave a field edge, and you can see whether that's been walked or not. So a track, unless it's got private or no entry on, usually you'll find that a farmer is happy for you to give that a go, and if they're not, you'll soon know. So certainly you'll find most people will have walked the inside of a field edge if it's running by a road. So
do you do OS maps on digital as well, or you just
no? I don't. I love the map. I love it. No, I don't do it digitally. At home I do. I research online because I get a bigger screen and I can move around a bit quicker. But no, I love it. There's a lot of information on OS map. So for example, we walked yesterday and there was a trig point at the top of a small hill that we were walking in Suffolk, and immediately I look at my OS map and I can see it's 103. That's the height of it. That's where we are.
What's a trig point for those who don't know?
So a trig point is a measurement of how high you are above sea level, and it's a concrete little pyramid.
Does it have any writing on it?
It was in the middle of a field, so I didn't walk over to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it does actually. I don't know. It's just
but the map shows you where you are.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's 103 meters above sea level at that point.
And it shows you the contours, and I find that really exciting and interesting. I like to see how much ascent and descent we've done from
where you started to
the highest point and the lowest point. Yeah.
Would it surprise some people that in this flat area that we are in, that there are some
small elevations? Yes. Yeah. Yes, it would, I think.
But how much do you think it differs? Like 100 meters? 200 meters?
Yeah, 100 meters.
Yeah.
Up and down, but several times though on a walk. That's good.
Up and down the rolling hills.
Yeah, they were rolling. It was a good walk with a bit of old ruins of an old castle around here.
Whereabouts was the walk you were doing yesterday?
Yesterday we took in 5 villages yesterday. So we started in one called Barrow, and we went to Denham, which is well known for its deer estates.
Actually, it's more hilly there than it is
really is
around here, isn't it?
Yeah. So Denham's known for its deer estate. So we walked through a path with deer on either side that weren't there yesterday, but should be. And then sheep and lambs up to Gaisley, which is a beautiful village with a fine church. And then we went over to Moulton, which is a beautiful village with a fine church and a medieval packhorse bridge.
Do you guys walk into the churches sometimes? Do you
Yes,
see,
we do if they're open. Yeah, we do. We did yesterday. And then we went on to the final one, which is Dalham, and a fine church with a beautiful avenue of chestnut trees that are just budding with the sticky buds. And so I've already booked this walk to do again as a repeat in 2 weeks' time, because the chestnuts will just be magnificent.
Do you have to let anybody know in the area that you're coming, or you just pitch up and walk?
No, you don't need to let anyone know, unless I was doing it as an official walk for the Suffolk County Council like I did last year. And then it's wonderful how well stocked the churches are. They'll put tea and coffee in there for you.
If they know you're coming.
Yep, they will. If there's a toilet on site, they'll open it up for you. And that people want to showcase churches and where they live. And yeah, it's good. Yeah, people are very, very good. I've got a walk this year on the Elvedon Estates.
Yes, I know where that is.
So
Up by the Elvedon Forest,
yeah.
Forest side.
You're right. It's just before. It's on the Suffolk-Norfolk border, and I've engaged with Elvedon Estates, and they've given me access to paths that aren't open to the public. So we've got a 7-mile walk going around there. Breakfast before, which is locally sourced, and I get very excited about that.
And we mentioned that you had a club, Joyce's Walking Club. Do you have a way for people to contact you? Is there a website or just
I do have a Facebook group called Joyce's Weekly Walks that people can join, and then I would add you to an email group, and we could that's what I tend to just email around, or people know when they're on a walk they can ask me about the next one.
And lastly, just a bit of advice for somebody who might want to start their own walking club in their area.
Yes.
How would they go about it?
That's interesting, because I suppose my dealings with church gives me access to a couple of hundred people, really, doesn't it, straight away. I have got a big friends base as well. Oh, that's difficult. I would say there's lots of clubs out there. There must be a Ramblers somewhere close by, a group.
So if you're in an area, there's probably a walking group.
Yeah, I would think so. And then you can always have a spin-off of that, or get involved in a local walking festival if there's one near you. Yeah.
Who would have thought walking festivals?
Yeah, I know. Great, eh?
Joyce, it's been great having you on
Thanks,
LifeShot.
Clint. Pleasure.
And enjoy the walking.
Thank you.